Breaking news, the Saints fire head coach Dennis Allen after the loss to the Panthers. Next move for New Orleans, ladies and gentlemen. Today, the backdrop off the bench with Jacob Hester, no T-Bob. So we're reacting to this. So we've already covered the actual breaking news side of this, and we talked a little bit about that. And it's kind of crazy because after the Panthers game, the writing was absolutely on the wall. And what we thought is what happened, where they wanted to get Dennis back in New Orleans. They wanted to get him back in the office. And then there was no conversation. It was just, look, you got to go. You can't lose a game like that. You can't lose what I would argue is probably the most improbable loss in NFL history. No team has ever lost that game state. No team has ever done what the Saints did. Have 200 more yards, 10 plus minutes time possession, 150 yards rushing, win the turnover battle, and lose. The fact that happened, and it's when Derek Carr returns against the Panthers, worst team in the NFL, who happen to be in your division. Everything just lined up, and there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So we're going to go ahead and hear what Jacob has to say, react along the way. I do want to mention, though, I was thinking about this. Derek Carr is in a horrific situation. Carr, look, spoiler, Carr will not be on the New Orleans Saints next season. It's obvious that he was brought in here to save Dennis Allen's job. Did not work. Nothing against Carr, but and not that it's his fault, but it is what it is. But the locker room and Carr have been kind of tumultuous through the entire time he's been in New Orleans, whether it was Chris Olave last year, whether it was Eric McCoy last year, whether it was Michael Thomas last year and this year. Carr's kind of been on the out seemingly with a lot of people. And now that Dennis Allen is gone, I have to wonder how the locker room is going to react to Derek, because it's kind of like having a lame duck quarterback. And Derek being a leader in the locker room, I can't imagine that's going to go over well. And again, I don't want to sound like this is being critical to Derek Carr, but he's just in a really bad situation where now he has to play out the remainder of this season knowing, one, he's like the talisman banner guy for Dennis Allen, right? He's kind of the talisman banner he's like the last remnant of Dennis Allen, who the locker room obviously didn't like, and the locker room obviously has problems with Carr. So it's interesting to see how that dynamic is going to play moving forward. But this video, more about Dennis Allen and the Saints' future. Jacob, take it away.
Into existence sometimes, and it just happens. The New Orleans Saints have fired head coach Dennis Allen.
See ya.
Adam Schefter, official whenever that happens. We checked 17 times. The blue check mark and the followers and the real account. Dennis Allen is out in New Orleans.
Yep.
Holla at your boy.
See ya.
We'll see ya.
Gone.
And I am never, ever in the fire coach hot seat conversation. It is not my favorite thing to do. But my God, this one time with this one person, I was all about it. We know this man was 18-25, an overall record of 26-53. He's 2-7 this year, losing 7 straight games, and he just lost to the Carolina Panthers with Bryce Young as their quarterback. It had to happen.
Yeah.
You could not sit there and have more of the same. You have grown men, professionals in that locker room that were fed up, that were tired, that needed something new. The message didn't hit. It never hit. And now you can move on. Now, there's still aspects of this franchise that you need to have the same attitude towards. There's a lot of things that you need to move on from.
So this was kind of like, this is the final move to truly move on from the Sean Payton previous era. We talked about Pete Carmichael cosplaying as Sean Payton. The entire Saints organization, in a way, has been cosplaying the Sean Payton, Drew Brees era. This was the official last of it. This is it. There is nothing left from that time. You could say Mickey Loomis, but again, Mickey Loomis isn't going anywhere. So Payton's gone. Carmichael's gone. Allen's gone. Allen's defensive staff will be gone. Carr is about to be gone. It is new head coach. It is new culture. It is new identity. It is new quarterback. It is new direction. I mean, we are up for grabs. Like, the Saints are up for complete renovation. We have torn down the walls. We have torn down the foundation. It is time to build a new house. That's what we're doing. No more coats of paint. No more fancy cabinets. No more nothing. Get it all out of there. It's time. Whatever you want, dream it, build it. It is. If you want a pool, okay, cool, we're building a pool. If you want, whatever. Like, it is a ball of clay right now. There's nothing left. And this is the first time we can truly say that since 2005. I mean, this is the first time that Sean Payton's fingerprints aren't on this in some way, which isn't against Sean Payton, but it's just the fact that we are now officially moving forward. And, what direction that goes, will it be successful? Will it be a prosperous next chapter? I don't know, but it will be a brand new chapter. And it's now up to Mickey Loomis in the front office to figure out, okay, we have 24 hours for the trade deadline. So you would assume Marshawn Lattimore is obviously probably being fielded calls about. Like, he is the biggest trade asset we have. I don't think Kamara's gone anywhere, but Chase Young, Marshawn Lattimore, players like that, we're going to start moving pieces around. You're going to start moving pieces around, and then even the pieces now, you have to wonder who's the head coach, what's the identity, what are we going to do with them? Jay Canner, Spencer Rattler. If we go get a Ben Johnson, I have a feeling all those guys are gone. Like, all those guys, and maybe not gone literally, but gone as far as the future plans. If Ben Johnson takes this job and Ben Johnson drafts Cam Ward 5th overall, see ya, Hainer. See ya, Rattler. Like, whole new plan, whole new identity. If we retain Kubiak and we go get another coach, there's a lot that's about to happen. And there's a lot of moving and shaking. There's a lot of change for this franchise coming. This is the first domino of not a rebuild the way you're thinking, not like tank, rebuild, whatever. I mean, you're talking about rebuild how this franchise is known. Rebuild what this franchise is all about. These are the kind of things that, and we just saw it with Peyton, but these are the kind of things that can shape 10 years, 20 years of a franchise. Bringing in the right guy, bringing in a new identity, bringing in a new franchise player, whether it's defensively or offensively or whatever. I mean, this is the newest era of New Orleans Saints football since 2005.
But this is a step in the right direction. This is the first domino that had to fall.
Jeez.
The message, whatever message he was sending, was falling on deaf ears. Like, there was no one in that locker room respected that man. It was gone. It was over. All he did was throw you under the bus.
But I will give them this. There was not an effort question against Carolina. I thought the effort was fine. I don't think players were laying down. I mean, Alvin Kamara had 150 yards rushing. So, I kept hearing like, oh, the players quit, the players quit, the players quit. I didn't see that. I never bought into that, because these players are proud. These players are lifelong Saints, a lot of them. These players are, they want to win. They certainly don't want to lose to Carolina. So I don't think it was I know they did not like him. Like, I agree with Jacob. They did not respect him. They didn't like him, whatever. But that didn't show on the field against Carolina. What cost us against Carolina was a bevy of horrible decision-making.
And you didn't have, like, if a coach throws you under the bus, but you're winning, like if Bill Belichick does that in New England, like, hell, Bill did it again, but you know what? We're going to win Sunday. You weren't going to win on Sunday. You, over the last 7-8 weeks, have been the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah.
And you can't argue that anymore because you just lost to Carolina.
Correct.
You were the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah, we're currently the worst.
Has deficiencies, sure. It's had injuries. It's not a roster that should have ever been in that place.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. Like nothing I can say right now. Well, it might be a little different because we fired Allen. Before we fired Dennis Allen, 8 a.m. Monday morning, we were the worst team in the NFL. You cannot argue against it. You just lost to Carolina when you outgained them by 200 yards and won the turnover battle. You just lost that game. You lost a game that no other team in NFL history has lost when the game state was how it was. You just lost 7 games in a row. Yeah, that team shouldn't. A team with this talent, a team with a running back that has 150 yards in the game, should not be the worst team in the NFL. But here we are.
This had to happen. I'm glad that this is the first step in the right direction. Again, I hate dancing on someone's grave. I do. But Dennis Allen did this to himself.
Yes, 100%.
He did himself no favors
100%.
as well.
Yeah.
So, as we've talked about all show long, you're wondering, would it happen? Would they actually make the move? Ross Jackson, he laid it out. We're talking about, hey, next 10 hours, like, there might be something happening here. Like, you might need to pay attention. He was spot on. And we saw other coaches in the NFL, be it head coach or coordinators, be let go because there's a standard in the NFL. It is a business. Okay? You can be...
Well, I mean, like coaches don't really get this kind of spotlight like players do. But there's only 32 of these jobs in the world to be a head coach of an NFL team. Dennis Allen signed a 4-year, $32 million contract. So when you put it like that, like, yeah, Dennis Allen's kind of a bozo. Yeah, he's never really been great. But then you're like, man, brother, you are supposed to be one of the 32 best in the NFL at doing this. You are making like $8 million a year to do this, and you are comically bad. You are bad at decision making. You are bad at the situational stuff. Now the defense is bad. The players hate you. Like, when you kind of frame it like that, there's no choice but to fire him. If he was top 10 in defense, yeah, sure, keep him around. If he's top 5 in defense, sure, keep him around. Said that last year. But once that defense slipped, Dennis Allen is a horrible manager. He's been a horrible, like, the logistical side of head coaching, the operational side of head coaching. And yeah, I mean, he just never had the capability to turn things around. Never had the capability to right the ship. Once the ship started nosediving, that's all there was to it.
Mediocre in college football. You can be bad. Hey, we got to give him his recruiting. There's none of that recruiting class talk in the NFL. You got to go show me actual results, right? We look at the results here.
Well, there kind of was. Like, bringing in Derek Carr is kind of, or was kind of, the recruiting class where it was like, well, Allen did have some problems with injuries at the quarterback position. Andy Dalton was in there at one point. Like, what can you really expect? Then you bring in your guy, your handpicked guy, the guy you drafted in Oakland at the time. But you go get Derek Carr, and now things are worse. Things are worse now. You have gone from 9-8, probably should have made the playoffs. Disappointing, but whatever. You go from that to 32nd. You go from that to currently you have the number 2 overall pick in the draft. I mean, a crazy tailspin for a team that should absolutely not be in this position.
Here, like, we actually look at what's happening on the field. We don't look beyond them here. It's the NFL. You don't get a chance to figure it out, right? It will figure you out. It has figured Dennis Allen out. He's one of the losingest coaches in NFL history.
He is the losingest head coach for a long period of time in NFL history.
Now, thankfully, the New Orleans Saints have moved on from Dennis Allen. Tete Alondra, it happened. We didn't know if it would, but it finally happened.
Yeah, that's. I just put up that tweet from Nick Underhill. Here it is right here. He says, Nick just mentioned, Gail Benson began meeting with players late last week to get a feel for what was wrong with the Saints. And she said at the end, the organization decided to act as to what they thought was the main problem. So you were talking about him not having respect in that locker room, losing the players on this team. According to Nick, it looks like that's exactly what happened with Gail Benson meeting with these players and then ultimately deciding to do that. 2 things I'm going to be watching. Who's going to be taking over in the interim, and is Dennis Allen the only casualty here this week? Those are kind of the 2 main things I'm watching. I mean, look.
So that's already been answered. I know this is like breaking news for them, but Darren Rizzi's the interim head coach. We talked about that in our video, where that's the appropriate decision. Kubiak should not be the interim, because then you have the question of, like, what do you do at the end of the season? Rizzi is the perfect bridge where he's not an actual consideration to be the head coach of the Saints. He's the caretaker. If you watch Premier League soccer in England, they have caretakers, which are usually former players that step in and kind of manage the team while they figure out who's going to be the next long-term coach. Darren Rizzi is a caretaker right now of the New Orleans Saints, and the Saints can figure out from now until week 1, 2025, or I guess like the true preseason, who they want to be the head coach. I'm glad it's not Kubiak. I'm glad he can just focus on becoming a good offensive coordinator and showing that he. I mean, everyone currently needs to prove that they should be retained, because if Kubiak, I like Kubiak, but if the offense struggles for the remainder of the year, and we have a chance at getting a Ben Johnson or somebody, get him out of here. So I would love for Kubiak to succeed, so that way we could retain him, keep that kind of consistent, and then go get a rightful head coach, rightful DC. But everyone's up for grabs, and the defensive staff is gone. Like they may not be fired this week, but they are going to be fired at some point. The defensive staff will be replaced. You don't fire your long-term DC and keep the staff. So they're gone. And then, of course, there'll be major roster shakeups, maybe even big-time trades at the deadline, but then certainly moving forward, the roster shakeup will be severe.
Look, people have been critical of Mickey Loomis. I get it. We were talking about the just lack of creativity in the offense as well. Now it's Kubiak's first year. He's a young guy. We'll see what they do there. But it'll be interesting to see if there's more dominoes that fall.
Adam Schefter also tweeting out, with New Orleans firing Dennis Allen, questions remain about what the Saints will do before the 4 p.m. Eastern time trade deadline. As the team holds a 2-7 record, Marshawn Lattimore is among the players teams have inquired about. That's what I'm saying. Like, this team right now, this wasn't the only move, coaching, players, front office personnel, that needs to be made.
Yeah, agreed.
But it was the biggest one.
It's the first one. It's the one you have to do before you can do the rest of them. You can't do the rest of them without doing this one. And yeah, I mean, we are in the middle of we're at the beginning of an enormous restructuring of this organization. All of those players, all of the big contracts, all of the aging players, all of the whatever, they're out. They're gone. It's not even a question. They're Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu, Marshawn Lattimore, Ryan Ramczyk, Derek Carr, they're gone. You can go ahead and bookmark that, write that down, whatever, but they are out. The roster turnover will be huge. The coaching staff turnover will be huge. Come week 1, 2025, this will be an unrecognizable team from what it is right now.
One that will get everything going in the right direction. Now, you can certainly go in the wrong direction. It's like that fork in the road. This was the one that maybe gets you back on track as a franchise. You can hit a little bit of a soft reset, and you get a great draft choice. Now, if you hold on to some of these things that have no value, then you're just going to hire the next guy, and it's going to be more of the same.
Well, not only that, but let's say you go hire Ron Rivera, and you hire Ron Rivera as your head coach, and you whiff on your top 5 draft pick. We're just in the same, there is no guarantee that this will lead to quick success, but this leads to the option to succeed. This leads to the opportunity to land the right head coach, a la a Dan Campbell. This leads to landing the right franchise player, a la Joe Burrow. We've seen bad franchises turn themselves around in 1 year, 2 years because of the decisions that are now presented to Mickey Loomis. Mickey Loomis is now presented the opportunity to go get your head coach, go find your next Sean Payton, and also the opportunity to go get your next Drew Brees, whether that's through the draft or through something else. But yeah, this can 100% continue going south. You make the wrong choices in those spots. Yeah. Nothing good about that either.
A key moment right now for the New Orleans Saints and their franchise. Again, you have been incredibly blessed over the last couple of decades to not have to be in this situation.
Yeah, you're there now.
But you are here now.
Yeah.
And now here is a moment that is going to shape the next decade for your franchise. Okay? You're aging. You've got to get younger. You have to realistically take a look at the quarterback position in this draft. Okay, so maybe there's not a quarterback that people love in this draft. I don't know. I don't know that I agree with that.
But every draft, like let's say you don't take your quarterback in this draft. Let's say you take a tackle. Let's say you take Will Campbell from LSU. And you're saying, you know what? Let's just shore up the line first. Okay, cool. Next draft, you're looking at a quarterback. Or you're trying to figure something out. Like at some point, you have to answer that question. You can't answer all the questions at the same time. This team is devoid of talent, or will be devoid of talent when you get rid of all of these players. You will need everything. Mason Tipton, Bub Means, Cedric Wilson, and ain't going to cut it. So do you go after your big wide receiver? Do you go after an offensive lineman? Do you go after a defensive lineman? Do you go after a linebacker? There are so many needs. You can't answer them all in one draft. So if you go after a couple of linemen in this draft next year, are you looking at a top quarterback? Where are you at in the draft? So it's a long process. We have to answer a lot of questions, but everything is on the table for sure. If a head coach comes in and he decides Shedeur Sanders is my guy, it's on the table. If a head coach comes in and he decides he wants to, go defense first, okay. Anything is possible right now.
I think there's enough quarterback talent in this draft to go get your guy, right? I mean, did we ever think there would be, how many, 6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks last year? We didn't think we'd see that. But you're seeing some rookie quarterbacks play at a pretty high level. There's going to be a quarterback that's available. That you have to change the narrative of that position. Derek Carr ain't it.
No, he's gone.
He ain't never been it.
He's gone.
All right, but he certainly hadn't been it since he lost his job for the Las Vegas Raiders, and you signed him to a big deal. You got to get that position right, all right? That's where you got to start. But also there's some places on your roster you got to fill in some gaps. You got to make some tough decisions. There are guys that have been loyal as hell to the city and to the franchise that you're going to have to make tough decisions on, but that's what the NFL is.
Yeah, I don't think they're even that tough.
It's a business.
I don't think the decisions are even that tough. I think Alvin Kamara is the only player that I would say is relatively safe versus like the really young guys that aren't, But Kamara, I think, is safe. The rest of them, I would guess they're all on their way out.
And when things change, rosters change. Hell, I've been a team captain one year, released the next. That's the way the NFL works.
Yeah.
Right? Relationships are hard in the NFL because of that. And you got to make those tough decisions. But this, right now, I'm going to give you some credit because I didn't think you'd have the you-know-what to do it. Did y'all?
No.
Yes. I said week after week, day after day, responded to comment after comment when people were like, Mickey won't do this, Gail won't do this, blah, blah, blah. At a certain point, you hit that critical mass and you have to do it. I don't think they wanted to do it. I think they were giving Dennis every opportunity to relieve them of having to do it. But they're not going to sit there and allow a 10-game losing streak, 11-game losing streak to happen. So I'm not surprised at all that they fired him. That's why Sunday night when I recorded the video of Dennis's press conference, I released it Monday morning at 9 a.m. And I said in there, I'm doing this a couple hours early because I fully expect him to be fired.
So I didn't either. And like you said, it's a step in the right direction, but it doesn't make me feel any better about where this team is at. I have been on the fire Dennis Allen train since last season.
Yeah.
And I've been on the get rid of Derek Carr train, both of them since last season. So this is, like you said, a step in the right direction. But honestly, I think until Mickey Loomis is out of there, not a lot is going to change with this organization. He has done a horrific job managing the front office and just everything about this team that, yes, I am surprised that they actually did something about Dennis Allen because it didn't look like they were going to. And this is something that should have been done a long time ago. So it's not, I'm glad that he's gone, but it's also just not making me feel any better about the organization or the team.
That's absolutely insane. That is absolutely nuts. If getting rid of Dennis Allen and completely overhauling this roster does not make you feel better about the steps we're taking moving forward, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, Jake, to your point, when you were reading the Schefter tweet about, Marshawn Lattimore is a guy that a lot of teams are calling, never thought I would say this. It's probably better for you to trade Marshawn Lattimore at this point.
Yeah.
You're not winning with him. You drafted Kool-Aid McKinstry. You still have Paulson Adebo. You still have Alante Taylor. get something back for him. If nothing else, try to get draft picks because now it's very evident that you are in a complete rebuild.
Yeah.
You're not going
Adebo is not. He's also gone.
to be able to offload Derek Carr because of the big contract. Who is the most valuable player? Alvin Kamara just signed a 2-year extension. You're not moving on from him. Cam and Demario Davis are older. Like Marshawn Lattimore fits that to a T of a player that, hey, he's valuable for you. You're not really winning with him.
Yeah.
You can get a ton back for him. I mean, I honestly think that's the next move they need to make.
I don't think you get a ton for him. I think you probably move him for a second, and that's probably about it.
A lot going on, obviously, inside the Value Ford chat. Our guy Fon says, why waste a pick this year on a quarterback when you're already paying Carr and Rattler? Draft O-line, D-line receiver this year.
Paying Rattler. You're paying Rattler a rookie 5th-round deal. You're paying Rattler virtually nothing.
It's because Derek Carr's not the answer. And
He's
it was a bad signing when you made it.
Yeah,
it's
he's
bad
gone.
now. It's bad then.
They're going to eat whatever dead money they got to eat. They're going to eat they're going to do it all at the same time. They're going to do this big Band-Aid ripoff where they're going to, like I said, they're going to cut all these contracts. They're going to trade players while they can. They're going to move off players while they can. 100%.
And it's always going to be bad. And so you're going to have to take a hit on the chin there.
Yeah.
I like Spencer Rattler. I do. He's a 5th-round pick.
Yeah.
Every NFL team had 4 rounds to select him, and they didn't make the move. Jay Kaner's a 4th-round pick. Same situation. I think there's skills there, certainly, that can make Rattler intriguing. But you have a chance to maybe take a top 5 quarterback. And I like this quarterback class better than it sounds like most do. I think there's quarterbacks.
I think it's better of a class than – I agree with that. I don't think any of these guys are, like, necessarily generational, but I do think a lot of people are dismissing them. But I probably like Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders more than I like Bo Nix last year. I think they're fine. I think they're a decent class
in this draft that can go be a franchise quarterback. Now, there's always a chance to miss. I'd rather miss on a quarterback than a defensive lineman from UTEP.
100%. But I would. We need so much. Like, this is the year where if you end up with Will Campbell and you shore up, you got Fuaga and Campbell moving forward, and they're both good. I think Fuaga is good. I think we can say that right now. I'm okay with that too. We're a long way from the draft.
Our defensive lineman from NC State, right? Yeah. Our defensive lineman, because it seems like that's what they always, from Wazoo. I'd rather miss on Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward or Quinn Ewers or whoever that might be, whoever it might be. So it's different now. You made a move. You made the move that had to happen for everything to get going. Yep. What do you do now? Where do you go?
It's party time
from
now.
Here? And like Tay said, it's going to be highly intriguing on who they make the interim head coach and what it looks like moving forward and who you could potentially bring in. Bill Belichick? Can we go ahead and start that? Let's just go ahead and start that. Make that like a...
We talked about that, so I did the video of who I would pick. I wouldn't do Belichick because he's so old. And you're talking about, like, this is like a long deal where you're getting a lot of young players. You're completely revamping a team. Do you want a guy who in 3 years, he's 75 years old? I don't think so. I don't. So you got to take somebody who's in there for the long haul. You got to take somebody who's willing to kind of build something for a couple of years before it's going to be good. Because there are a lot of holes and a lot of turnover and a lot of cap issues we're going to go through for the next year or two.
A whole 2-month process.
Hear me out. Hear me out. I know he's like somewhat blacklisted. John Gruden loves football so much. He loves football so much. I know that's not like the best option, but
depending on what you do on the offensive side of the things in the offseason, there's a name out there that I've been keeping an eye on for a while because I think he's a great coach and I don't know why he's not a head coach. Mike Vrabel would be one of my first calls if I'm the...
What, you watching my videos? You watching my videos and not giving me credit? Is that what's going on?
New Orleans Saints. I thought he did an excellent job in Tennessee. They're worse now than they were when they got rid of him.
Vrabel, 10 games over 500 in Tennessee.
You know he's going to have the defensive side of the ball locked down. And I get a lot of people like, well, you just hired a defensive coach in Dennis Allen. You don't want to hire another one. Those two guys are not the same.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
I mean, Mike Vrabel's a very good football coach.
I'm pretty sure he has a winning record.
Yes.
as
10
a head
over,
coach
10
in the
games
NFL,
over.
and not one that's in the top 10% of worst in NFL history when you hired him.
See, I think that's probably one of the things that you should look at when hiring a head coach. Like,
Probably.
hey, do they have an existing winning record?
Yeah. And if times are bad, do they have something where we can at least fall back on to have hope that it's going to get better,
Right.
and not one of the worst records in head coaching history?
Wow, just
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, crazy time to be a Saints fan. What's the future hold? Let me know in the comments below what you think. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.